Hello, hello. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so happy to have you here and forever grateful to those of you tuning in. So, we're just going to jump right in. I am excited. I'm a little congested, so forgive me. I have decided that I want to use this space to start sharing more about what it's like to integrate your awareness and really just surrender to the experiment and be open to what you can learn from the experience. Wow, that sounded like a ton of collective energy there because now I'm like sharing this experience. And this makes so much sense for me. I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but I really want to like bring this to the forefront for people because I think a lot of times we become aware and then we allow that to be the endpoint. And sometimes that's all that is needed, right? Sometimes we become aware of something and that's enough. That's enough. And sometimes there's more. There's potential for more. Because then you can integrate this awareness and really start shifting and changing your life. And I have been doing this with human design for the past 3 years, and it's something that I literally think about every single day. So I figured I need to start sharing. They're like, hello, start sharing the goods. So I'm going to use the podcast for a real raw experience base. And the best way to do this for me is sharing in the now. So here we are. Um, if you aren't familiar with human design, definitely check out my free resources. They're going to be linked below. And there's a free guide available on my website that will give you like basic foundational knowledge of human design. And, I don't want to get into all the nitty gritty details on human design, but right now the sun is moving through a gate that you will find in your human design chart. And so I'm going to talk about gate 21. And right now the sun is moving through gate 21. And I just want to share this story. You don't have to understand all the human design stuff to hear this story, because this is just to share like how cool it is to really integrate knowledge and then see all the synchronicities and to witness how like everything in your life is really shifting and like a factor of what you choose and the energy that you choose to show up in, and taking on this like as this integration and this experimentation as like something fun and playful. Like that's what it is in return. So I wanted to share, basically, if you listen to my last episode, things have been pretty emotional and intense and a lot of shedding and releasing. And I had all these experiences around shedding and releasing beliefs around control and around like, some of my expectations and how I thought things needed to play out. And I was having these experiences, and now we have just moved into gate 21, which is the hunter or huntress, and which is about control, really like taking charge for the tribe, for the common good. So it's like willpower and just like being able to like lead, to be able to like serve your people, to be able to provide for your people. And this is really where the high expression of this gate is like, yes, like I'm going to provide for my people and I'm going to lead and I'm going to have the knowledge of like where everything is going. Like I'm going to be in control because I know how to best serve my people with this. And the lower expression is really more inverted, where it's like there could be this fear of taking control, like taking authority, being a leader, or where you're trying to control, but it's really for yourself. Like it's not necessarily for the tribe. And it's like this power thing, right? So you kind of see the themes. I was having some of these themes come up before entering gate 21 and then moving into gate 21. And as these themes were coming up, I'll say they came through to me. I shared in the last episode as an emotional thing. Like it was just like I was getting real emotional about things. I was feeling things that, like, you know, when you feel things over and over again, they kind of just present themselves like a little bit differently. And something like just caught my eye this time. I was like, there's something about this. Like, I need to pay a little bit more attention. This isn't just a low that's passing. There was so much going on in the cosmos, and there was just my cycle going on as well. And so, like, you have to trust yourself, right? Like, if you think, okay, maybe there's something more here, there might be something more there. And so, I'm just opening up. I'm going to be curious. And so then we move in. I'm moving through some of these emotional waves. I'm expressing myself. I'm doing some of the things that I just feel called to do. And a lot of clarity, like I feel the clarity coming. And then we move into gate 21. And I feel like I am on solid ground. And I'm like, wait, I have this gate. So I have gate 21. It's in your heart center. And I have it undefined, like my heart is undefined, but I have the gate. And so, I experience this kind of like groundedness of, oh, I know where my leadership energy is going. There's like this clarity of how I want to serve and lead, right? And how I want to show up with what I can control. Because the lower expression kind of has me like trying to control things that I don't even really care about. And I've experienced that a lot of my lifetime. And so it was just such a contrast because I had just had these like intense experiences of this lower expression. And then the sun moved into this gate. And so what happens, because that energy for me isn't always like consistent. It kind of like hits and miss. And that's why I was saying before, like at times I feel like this kind of stability because that energy sometimes is there for me. But right now with the sun in gate 21, it's very amplified. It's consistent for me. And so I do have this clarity of, okay, how is my energy best serving the tribe for this situation and for what was coming up for me? And a lot of things just dropped out. Like a lot of things just was like, that is not important. You are trying to control something that you do not care about. And what happens when energy is always changing? So think of it this way. Like this is, if you are into astrology, if you're into numerology, any of the things, think of it this way. It's like, as the energy is shifting, right? In the stars, in the planets, whatever, that is giving you a new opportunity to experience a different perspective. And so with human design, you're constantly absorbing energy, which is shifting your human design, like the energy that's consistent, reliable, already there for you. We're constantly absorbing the energy from the people in our environment and from what's happening with planets, right? So if we don't, like, we can look at this as like, oh, I'm feeling like Mercury retrograde, right? A lot of people are like, oh, I feel this. Okay, but like, what is the gift behind this? And that's the shift that we need when things are like seeming a little rocky, right? We're like, oh, we don't like this. Okay, but we don't like it because it's uncomfortable. It might be new. It might be inconvenient. It might be chaotic. It might make your human self freak out. But there's a gift in it. And essentially, I love just like zooming way out and I'm like, okay, what's the perspective that I'm opening up to see right now? And the contrast for me between this intense low before entering gate 21 and then feeling like I just like climbed up onto like the cliff, like, and that I'm like, okay, I'm on solid ground now. It was like, okay, I feel great. I feel like clarity is here. And and a lot of my emotions cleared up. So it was like, okay, like coming out of my low, I'm obviously emotional. So that's why I'm saying like, this is how it felt during this part of my wave. And I also took a step back and I'm like, okay, we're in gate 21. So I'm going to take this period while the sun is in gate 21 and observe, because this is what I really want to see what shows up for me, and like see, okay, are there still areas where like I see myself wanting to control things, right? Like, so that would be a big thing for me right now, is like, okay, focus on things that is like grabbing my attention to control. Like, how am I reacting? Are my reactions based off of a need for control or a fear, right? So some people might have this fear of having authority, and that might be the switch for you. That might be something that you need to look at or try to observe. And one of the biggest things that I've done that really like trips up our ego around this, or just some like the habits that we've had and reactions, because like a lot of my reactions, are just automatic. And I'm like, whoa. Like if I take a step back and I zoom out and I'm observing, I'm like, that is an intense reaction for not an intense situation, Call yourself out a little bit. It feels good when you can be lighthearted about it. And if you're taking responsibility for something, like first, like if you're like, whoa, that reaction was not like in alignment with the situation, a lot of times you can just laugh, like everyone can just laugh it off. But anyway, something that I've been enjoying, and it's just been kind of fun to see like how my nervous system reacts and how my emotional body reacts, is like stepping into new situations or just changing the way I do things. And this is very simple. This is like taking a different route on your walk. This is like trying a new coffee shop. So like just literally being around different people. So like, I mean, walking down a different street, going in a different store, stopping at a different gas station, doing different things, like stepping into new situations. Maybe you'll sign up for something that you never thought you'd sign up for. That's really going to trip up like your normal expectations and routines of things. This goes across the board. So I do this a lot with like, no matter what, this isn't specific to gate 21. This episode does not matter when you're listening to this episode, because this is the power of human design. There's energy that's going to be available. Like, it's just the energy. Like, you don't have to think about it. You don't even have to worry about it. If you don't care what gate the sun is in, don't care what gate the sun is in, But what you get to be curious about is what you learn about your own energy. And then you get to observe how you experience that energy differently based on the environment. And that is including like what's happening with the planets. But, like, that's the beauty of human design. Like, that's the lesson, because I really had to have that contrast. I had to have that experience of, wow, I feel like I need to control everything, but at the same time, everything felt out of control. So I was like frustrated and angry. And then to all of a sudden have clarity on like, this doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. This doesn't matter to me. But now I have the energy to focus on that, because I'm not splitting my energy 12 different ways, trying to figure out how to control all these things, right? It's really honing in on, what am I in control of? And those are those things that but sometimes you got to like slow down and remind yourself, like, other people's reactions, I'm not in control of. And like we can go down a whole rabbit hole about that, but get really clear on, okay, what am I putting my energy into? And is it worth it? Like, it's so interesting how much we put our energy into things that like we actually, at the end of the day, we're like, why are we doing this? And maybe not at the end of the day, because how many of us don't take time to reflect? But this is, I mean, if you're listening to this, then you are somebody who wants to take the time to reflect. and you're wanting to be self-aware, or you are self-aware and you're like, okay, what do I do with this? Because this is where I really got to the point where my self-awareness consumes me. Like I will think and think and think and think and think and be so self-aware that I'm literally like I am imploding. And so that's where I got to this point where I'm like, I have to do something about this. Like something needs to change so I can know like if this awareness needs to sink all the way in or can move through me, or, you know, like I feel like I'm really here to process awareness. And so really sharing that, because when you start paying attention and when you start integrating your awareness, you'll start seeing synchronicities. And I am not somebody who, I don't compartmentalize like the energy. Like the energy of what's happening in one area of my life is across the board. Like it starts seeping, right? Like it might not be all the time, but if I don't attend to what is happening, like if I don't nurture different parts of my life, the energy, if it's lower vibrational, it's going to seek into all areas of my life. And I know a lot of times we humans are taught to compartmentalize, and you know, some people do with their jobs, and I understand the value in that. This is not a negative thing on compartmentalizing, but emotionally it's very important to allow the emotions to go where they are going to go, right? Like if you're feeling some type of way about your career, right? But you're not addressing it, you're not nurturing that part of your life, and you're not saying like, hey, what is it that I don't like? Is it the people that I'm working with? Is it what I'm doing? Do I want to be paid more? Do I want to like physically move my environment? Like, you know, what is it? So if you're not like doing the work to kind of like move through that emotion's gonna like move into other areas of your life, right? But a lot of times we compartmentalize and we shut it off. If we're not allowing it to move into other parts of our lives, like it's basically denial, because energy is energy. It's gonna affect other parts of your life. And so when we're doing that, it's like creating this bigger resistance, right? Like you're creating more energy of stopping something, or like trying to stop something, or trying to deny or ignore or shut down, right? That's a lot of energy to hold it in one spot of your life. Whereas if you let it leak through, it's an interesting example. Sometimes that's where the wisdom comes in. Sometimes that's where it allows you to like unlock, oh, this is actually what I'm desiring. And so then you can go back to your job and you can like say, this is what I need in my job. But it took it maybe seeing that energy show up in your family life, right? And it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It just is observing the energy in your life as one. Because what you experience is based off what's within you. It's not based off of what's at your job. It's not based off of what's happening at home. I mean, it's you're influenced by that, right? But the common denominator is you. It's your energy. It's how you show up. And so for me, I let things bleed. All the themes show up in all the areas of my life, especially like healing, because I look at everything energetically. I see wounds energetically. I see, you know, my emotions energetically. Like everything's energy. And so when I'm looking at, you know, my relationships, my family, like I see parallels with my business. You know, I see parallels in my physical environment. And there's this big theme, and that can be very overwhelming for people. And that's why we do compartmentalize. And so, you know, you're keeping yourself safe when you do that. Like, don't beat yourself up if you're like, crap, that's what I do, you know? No. That's safe for you. And what we can do is, like, if you do open that up. So what happens when we open this up is, one, like, there's going to be a lot of clearing necessary, but then you're able to open up and see the opportunity as, oh, this energy from this perspective in my life, from this area of my life, it feels very resonant to, this other area of my life, but I'm able to see it from a different perspective. And that's a lot like what human design does, because the energy is always changing. You're always around, well, you might always be around different people. I recommend trying to be around different people if you can, because what it does, it's constantly giving you this new way of viewing things. And when you see it like that, it becomes a gift. It, like, sometimes that can be very chaotic. And if you're not aware that, you can ground yourself, you can come back to what is true, which some people don't know how, like, or don't relate to that either. It really just depends on where you are. But for me, I let everything bleed in this, like, there's no coincidences, right? Like, this energy has been everywhere in my life, all areas, leading up to the transits, and I've just been so cosmically aware the last couple months, and I'm so hyped to just, like, it's just exciting for me. And so a few weeks ago, I scheduled a Reiki session because I just had all these emotions, and I was just, like, going through it. It felt real thick and real deep. And so I scheduled a Reiki session, and I had this intention to just clear my vessel. I had these expectations holding on with some of my relationships. I had some expectations with my business, and I'm like, I'm ready to be cleared. I feel like new ideas are ready to drop in, and I feel like I was being stubborn with some things, like some ideas and some perspectives. So I just wanted to clear it out, And it ended up being that the Reiki session was going to be a couple weeks later. And at first, excuse me, I was kind of bummed. I was like, I wanted it sooner, because the feeling that I felt over, like, the last few weeks, it was really, it felt urgent. It felt like I just want to take care of this. Like, I need to take care of this. It was like when you're a kid and you're sick and your mom is like, you're okay. Like, you just got to nurse it. Like, we got to do this. We got to do this. You just got to wait it out. And you're like, I just want to go to the doctor because they can get me better. Like, it's almost like I want that quick fix. It was almost that type of feeling. Like, it was so uncomfortable. But at the same time, I knew the value in it. So anyway, I wanted the Reiki session right away. I was like, come on. But it ended up being a couple weeks later, and like a day later, I was like, I fully trust that that's when I really need it. And I knew that then I had the opportunity to really move through some of these emotions, so I wasn't bringing them into the session. And that's what I did. And so I went into this session, and this was earlier this week, right before going into gate 21. And I or it might have been the day we moved into gate 21. Anyway, going into the session, I had told her my intention. My dear friend Talia, she's amazing. I'll link her below because her sessions are awesome. But I told her my intention of just clearing my vessel, and I had told her, I feel things shifting in this relationship. I feel like I'm at a decision-making point, and I have my decision, but I feel like there's a lot of emotions around it still. And so, anyway, to keep things vague, But so I go into this session and I feel all kinds of things. It's so cool. It's a celestial Reiki session, so very much like astral traveling, and it was a very unique experience. And needless to say, we talked about, like, what she witnessed and what she was experiencing, and the energy of, this tribal energy contrast to maybe the energy, like, individual, which is me, I would say. So there's like this contrast between tribal and individual energy where, the individual is very much like self-expression and thinking like, how is this serving me? And like, what is it like, how am I going to show up in my most authentic self, knowing that that's how I'm best serving people? That's like really the individual heart, right? Like they know like their best way to make a big impact is through showing up as their most authentic self and expressing themselves. Whereas like the tribal energy is very, of course, like for the pack, for the good of the tribe. And there's like this hierarchy. There's like, I'll do anything for you, you know? And there was this energy like presented, during my session. And this is the energy that had been like so conflicting for me in the weeks leading up to gate 21, because I can feel like when I make decisions, I feel very much like, okay, this decision feels very like rooted in my individual energy, or this like the emotion or perspective behind my decision is rooted in this energy. And I can see and feel this contrast. And what happens is sometimes I get really set in my ways, right? Like we all do. And I've had a past lifetime where I let like being an individual feel like defeat because of the energy of what felt like, like this pack, this tribe. And it was like, to me, so learning about this past life, right? So I had this past life where I was an individual and I felt like I was just kind of pushed out because of like a power couple, like this tribal energy. And so there wasn't trust for me. Like I felt really pushed out, which is a common theme, like with the individual and tribal energy. Like there's that fear of not fitting in, of not having a place, right? And so in this past life, I really let this affect me. I really just like, I was angry. I ended up living a life full of anger, right? So in this lifetime, I chose defeat. And so I had this experience where I saw it was like you can choose to step into different energies. You can choose to see different perspectives. And there's value in all of this. And, needless to say, my whole month of March was all around family and home life, which when you think of that, that feels very tribal, right? So all of this energy was just coming together. And then I had this session that brought like this last like puzzle piece of why this was almost so triggering for me, right? Like this was like the healing, like the soul wound portion of this, because of course the energy, like it's the energy of the cosmos right now, but how it's presenting itself is so like reflective of my past lifetime, souls and all. I'll just put it at that. I am experiencing, multiple lifetimes with the same souls. And there's this almost challenge that I'm experiencing, what feels like a challenge of that tribal and individual energy. And it was so beautiful to witness. And I was reminded, I was like, this is it. Like, there's no coincidence that all of this information is coming to me, let alone I had a conversation with my good friend Crystal, Human Design, and we were on one of her coaching calls and we were talking about the same kind of contrast of energy of tribal and individual energy. And it like, that was a light bulb for me. So I'm like, there are no coincidences. I do not like 100%. Nothing is a coincidence. And so I just knew, I was like, all of this is coming together to show me like, this is what we're here for. We're here to experience all the different versions of ourselves. We're here to experience the different perspectives, have awareness, pay attention to how we feel, and take time to reflect, and then make adjustments, right? Like, we get to choose if we want to show up like that again, if we want to repeat that same energetic scenario. We can attract that in again. We can also attract in something new. That's where, like, switching things up, doing things different is really where you're going to be able to attract in miracles. Like, that's where you are attracting energy of, let me be surprised. Every morning I wake up and I say, universe, show me what's possible. And it really, like, to me, those words feel like I'm just opening up, like, surprise me. Like, right? Like, if you don't like surprises, or if you feel a little bit icky with surprises, you know, think about how that's gonna affect, like, things like feeling like magic, things feeling like luck. A lot of people put the word luck in there. How lucky. What I feel like is lucky is alignment, right? I don't use the word lucky so much because, like, I feel like things happen and play out, like, really well like that when things are just really in alignment. So all of this to say is, listen, I didn't do this in a way that made sense. Like, I did not study human design in a particular way for a long time. Like, I Googled what I could, I followed who I could, I got the information that resonated, I shut out any information that felt like I was still being told, do this, this, right? Like, consume human design how you want. Like, there's so many ways. And I didn't, the way that I integrate and the way that I experiment is just, like, a part of my natural process. Like, it's just natural to me. That's why I think for a long time I didn't talk about this, like, raw, like, look at all this stuff connecting for me and look at how I've shifted how I show up, you know? Like, I don't think about that because, one, it does feel really intimate, but two, like, I didn't think I was doing anything grand. Like, I just thought, like, oh, I'm just taking this information and I'm putting it into my life, like, how it makes sense. It's very intuitive. It's very just, I don't know. Like, I saw an opportunity for, like, rebirth, right? Like, I see opportunities for change and I'm like, I'm gonna take that. Because if you know me, if things aren't changing and moving, I get bored. So it's like, that's what I do with awareness. So I guess it's like time to be that empowering person, right? Because I'm like, I don't know, I didn't think much of this. And maybe I don't know. I'm feeling called to share. I'm feeling called to really help people integrate their awareness. And this doesn't just have to be human design. I love human design, and it, like, the energetics show up so clear for me through human design. Like, I will read about something, I will hear something, I will read about the current energy, know about something in my human design or my kids or my wife, and it's constant observation. It is like a constant experiment, but it's fun, right? Like, this is the intuition playground. Like, I'm here to make things fun. Like, I'm pretty real. I'm pretty honest, but, like, I'm gonna make things fun. Like, if things need to be burnt down, we're gonna have fun burning it down, right? And so it's the same thing with awareness. And I'm just like, I think after the years, okay, this is a super side note, and then we're gonna wrap things up. But they're saying there's value. I love reading and I love books. I actually really love, like, personal development books. I can read them really well, But I got to this point where I was like, I'm just reading books to read books. And it didn't feel good. And, I wasn't super into astrology before. I never really got into the Enneagram. Like, I've done them all. Like, I've looked into them all, of course. Like, I know, I know what I am and everything. But human design really hit the nail on the head for me. It just like got right to the details and opened me up. And what happens with, you learn about your conditioning through human design, energetic conditioning, and you learn about how you might just operate differently. And like, at some point, you're just like, what do I have to lose? Like, I'm just going to try this out and see how it feels. Right. And I'm also kind of a person that, well, I'm very individual. Like I just said in this podcast, I have a ton of individual energy. So I'm kind of like, I'm going to do things my way. And I'm not, I'm fine disrupting. Like, it's okay. So anyway, we're going to wrap up here. It feels really good to express this. I will say that. I hope you can all hear and feel my excitement over this. And please, if you have any questions at all, please reach out. You can find me on Instagram at the Intuition Playground. But I feel like, I don't know, like it's like the door was just like closed for some reason. Like I just like, just not ready to share. And then I feel like the floodgates are opening. I mentioned in the last podcast that I'm working with my dear friend Crystal on a big project, Portal of Potential. I'll link it below. And that's been a fun outlet. Like, right? Like I say, this is fun for me. I make it playful. But like the work that I do, I make that playful too, because like working on that project has really been a playful way for me to zoom out and like take it all the information in from like what I'm working on, but my personal experiences, and it really helps me connect some of the dots. So I'll definitely link it below. It's opening soon, and this is going to be a space where you can keep up with the human design transits and astrology and connecting dots. Like, it will be a place for you to go to actually help you like think of, like, reflect, like, what's happening in my life, and then like read into the cosmos, and then like it will really, like, that will be such a great space for you to start doing this, because all it takes is awareness and a little bit of curiosity, and then just connect. Like, things will connect for you, I promise, because there's so many synchronicities available to us, and it's not just me. They're available to all of us. So that's coming up. So many amazing things. I will definitely be sharing more. I will say, like, not every gate brings on all of this wisdom for me. Not all this healing for me, but I think I will share, like, when I feel like it is right for me, but also in the now. So we'll go with this, and stay tuned, because I do have some updated offers coming that I'm excited to announce in the month of April. And I also plan on doing a podcast mini masterclass series, which, there's just been a big theme of like, do things different. So, that's what I'm calling it right now. I don't know exactly how it's going to look, but you're going to be the first to know. I promise. That will be in April as well. So, all right. Thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please, please, please leave a review. I invite you to share all your feedback. It is so appreciated and really helps the show. And of course, if you share it on social media, don't forget to tag me at the Intuition Playground on Instagram. And I think that's it. I'll talk to you all next time on the Intuition Playground.